Welcome to Digital Asset News. Take the top stories in cryptocurrency and digital assets and break them down to bite-sized pieces. Today we've got some great stories about regulation, TA, and the Federal Reserve. So first up, U.S. Congressman revamps the proposal to legitimize Bitcoin and other crypto assets and why this legislation piece is going to be major. Also, Bitcoin price hits a big snag, reversal approaching, or is it? Two TA specialists spar off as to where Bitcoin is actually going and where I can see it actually happening, as one I think is already correct. And my man Peter Schiff says Bitcoin is done after failing as digital gold, and I could just tell you I felt this one coming on. And it's interesting to see what Peter Schiff says, but I will say this. It's not interesting what he says, but why he says it. And finally, Bitcoin boom. New York Fed ups daily overnight repos by 50% to cushion markets, and they are essentially increasing the market cap to the entire market cap of Bitcoin just in overnight repos. And finally, we're going to go over the scam of the day. So thanks so much for everybody who has pitched in, but we'll go over this the very last piece. Let's jump into today's stories. So first up, U.S. Congressman revamps a proposal to legitimize Bitcoin and other crypto assets. And if you've been at this channel for any length of time, you know that I believe that regulation not only should come, but needs to come to this space to actually grow it. So when I see things like this, it gets me excited because I know when different regulation comes in, it's gonna let us go to the moon, hopefully. So here's what's going on. On Monday, Representative Paul Gosar, Republican from Arizona, introduced the latest proposal that aims to give clarity and legitimacy to Bitcoin and digital assets. The Cryptocurrency Act of 2020 is attempting to address a number of regulatory issues for crypto. That's just a little backdrop. And I think what is happening here was smart, because what they're doing, I'll just read it. According to the new draft, regulators will be tasked with categorizing digital assets into three distinct categories. One is a crypto commodity, two is a cryptocurrency, and three is a crypto security. So the approach would put the three U.S. regulators covering commodities, currencies, and securities, which would be the CFTC, the Secretary of the Treasury, and the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, in charge of different digital assets. And this is smart. This is the right way to do things because look, it's not like Bitcoin is the same as Chainlink. It's not like Monero was the same as Tether, and what they tried to do in the past was lump everything together, but that's not the case. And this is why this rep, Paul Gosar, his team, he has got a crack team, and they know exactly what's going on. We're going to take a look at the actual bill quickly, but I mean, even the lingo in there is spot on. So this is a person that I am definitely cheering for. Moving on. It states here that crypto commodities are economic goods or services that are on a blockchain or decentralized cryptographic ledger. This definition appears to apply to digital assets such as Bitcoin and would fall under the CFTC or commodities. The bill defines cryptocurrency as a representation of a U.S. currency, such as a stablecoin, as opposed to Bitcoin, Tether, USD Coin, or TrueCoin, and similar digital assets pegged to the U.S. dollar will be governed by the U.S. Treasury through the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or also to the Secretary of the Treasury. And crypto securities are defined as all debt, equity, and derivatives instruments that rest on a blockchain or decentralized cryptographic ledger, and that would fall under the legislation of the SEC. And thank God, just deal with that, because the SEC is not any fan of ours. That is for sure. So that was it in a nutshell. And all I want to do is just show you that the actual legislation or the bill itself, just how it's written, just how it's written, you can tell that these people know, have a clue as to what is going on. Let's just skip down to the second one here. Let me just take a look at this. Crypto commodity. The term crypto commodity means economic goods or services, including derivatives that have full or substantial fungibility. The markets treat with no regard as to who produced the goods or services and rest on a blockchain or decentralized cryptographic ledger. Cryptocurrency. The term cryptocurrency means representations of United States currency or synthetic derivatives resting on a blockchain or decentralized cryptographic ledger, including such representations or something, blah, 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 blah. But I'm going to link this in the description below, for everything that it is. And when I start to hear about the government legislation, I'm like, do these people really know what's going on? Because seriously, do they? But I can tell you, I read the whole thing, and these guys, at least they know the lingo itself, but I can see how this is a very smart way and a very good way moving forward. Let's move on. Bitcoin price hits a big snag, reversal approaching, and this is just two different opinions as far as TA goes. For all your TA people, I am not a TA person, but here's what a couple say. Cryptocurrency trader and analyst on TradingView, Magic Poop Cannon, that's a heck of a name, explained that King or Bitcoin King is priming further lows and there is little hope for a reversal. If the Bitcoin price trends follows the trend, okay, Cannon is predicting the new lows would be found under the $2,000 range. So basically he's saying, look, it's going to slide and it's going to keep sliding and it's going to go down to $2,000. However, it says here this is an unlikely scenario to play out. Another famed analyst, David Ward, aka Wyckoff Mode, that's funny, who has quite a following, explains that a reversal is approaching by midday on the 10th of March. So that's today. He states that the current movement has a rock bottom in the $7,600 range, and the reversal is approaching in the next 12 hours from the time of writing. So it did. He was actually right on. And they reversed the time of this video to $8,128. Now, right now, it's hovering around $8,000, but it's certainly not slipping down to $2,000. And I know TA, some of the viewers that are out there, some of you ladies and gentlemen, just love TA and you like to get into it, but I'm just not really well versed in it. But I'm going to leave a link so you can check it out. And I don't think it's going to slide to $2,000. I mean, I can just see it. I'm like, no, it doesn't make any sense. But hey, I've been wrong before. My question to you is, what do you think? Where do you think Bitcoin's going about what just happened in the last 24 to 40 hours? Do you think it's going to 2,000, or do you think it's going to stick around 9 or maybe even 12? Let me know in the comment section. Let's move on. Next up, my man Peter Schiff, who is a heck of a marketer, says Bitcoin is done after failing as digital gold. And if you've listened to this channel, I mean, I'm not a big fan of him as far as like what he's saying or spouting, but I have to respect the fact that he is a hell of a marketer to get people into his product, and he's been doing it for over a decade. I've heard this guy on like CNBC. You can find videos of him 10 years ago talking about how the government's going to crash and everything's going to go down to hell, and you got to get into gold now or else you're going to be living in the wasteland. And listen, it just works. It's the same message. I mean, the government never collapsed. You know, it didn't like go into a dystopian future, but guy still stays on point, and gold has actually risen. So tip my hat to that. Anyhow, Peter Schiff, before I move on, I'm just going to say that it's not what he says, but it's why he says it. And you have to kind of look at that. He says, or it says here, this time around, the gold bug says the orange coin is done. That's so stupid. After it failed to stand its first major test as a safe haven asset. He says, nothing will help Bitcoin, put a fork in it, it's done. And if you watch yesterday's video, there was a reasonable argument as far as the store of value and safe haven status for Bitcoin. And if you haven't watched that, go ahead and watch it over there. We don't have time to go over the whole rigmarole of what's going on. Do I think that Bitcoin is a better store of value than gold? Yes. Do I think it's being used as a store of value in a safe haven right now? No. And you can watch the video and make your own choice and let me know what you think. Moving on. As reported by You Today, the likes of veteran trader John Bollinger and Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong expected, and this is trader John Bollinger who created the Bollinger Bands, they both expected Bitcoin to move in the opposite direction under such circumstances, but that wasn't the case. And this was just from yesterday when the Dow Jones, dropped 300-something points. It was the worst big drop in like history of trading. And we also saw that oil prices also tanked because there was a ongoing feud between Saudi Arabia oil manufacturers and Russia, and they just bombed out. That's a poor choice of words for those two countries. Saudi Arabia essentially just bottomed out the price to make a big oil war. And that's a problem because everything dropped down, and you would think that Bitcoin was supposed to be inversely correlated or a non-correlated asset, and it didn't work out like that. Now, there's been articles where I think the BitHum or Bitstamp or one of the CEOs of one of the exchanges said, well, if Bitcoin was truly correlated to the market, it would have dropped 41%, not 17%. And that's not the point. The point is that Bitcoin is supposed to be a non-correlated asset. It's supposed to be inversely correlated, and it just didn't work out like that. Now, it's a little too early to, to damn it all down. We'll see, but didn't look good yesterday. That's all I'm saying. Peter Schiff, is just whining and complaining on Twitter. He says, hey, look, CNBC hasn't even mentioned Bitcoin today. CNBC spent months pumping Bitcoin as digital gold, a store of value that would outshine gold as a safe haven during times of market turbulence. If Bitcoin was starting today instead of crashing, the coverage would have been nonstop. And real quick, I think they did bring out somebody and they did talk about Bitcoin crashing. So it's just Peter Schiff being a marketer, right? And I will tell you this, CNBC, whether it goes up or down, it's still good for ratings for CNBC. So they're happy, right? And they'll drag out Tom Lee and they'll, pretty much, rake him over the coals and say, what's going on with your thing, Bitcoin? What happened? And of course, he's got to give his reasoning, and he always says the same thing. Well, it's still going to go up at some point. It's always the same stuff. But the thing about Schiff is that if Bitcoin wasn't a threat to gold, and right now it's really not. I mean, not right now. Maybe after the halving we'll see some big price action. But if it wasn't a threat, he wouldn't say anything about it, because by him even talking about it, it gives attention to Bitcoin. Sometimes people say bad press is still press or still good press, but I don't know if that's true. But he does come out there and he does, poo-poo on it in every chance that he can get. And I think it's because he knows, that there's, as far as like store of value, Bitcoin is a superior product. People just aren't using it as it was intended. Well, actually, if you look at it, Bitcoin was not intended to be a store of value. It was intended to be peer-to-peer transactions. That didn't work out so hot. So then they did the store of value. And that isn't working out so hot right now yet, but we will see. Anyhow, the point is, Peter Schiff's going to talk about Bitcoin. He knows it can eat into his $8 trillion in gold assets, and not his, the gold market in total. So that's why he attacks every chance he can get. Moving on. Bitcoin boom. New York Fed ups daily overnight repos by 50% to cushion markets. So in the last few hours, the New York Fed announced changes to the amount offered in daily overnight repos. First of all, for those not well versed, what are daily overnight repos? Well, repurchase agreement or repos. A repurchase agreement or repo is a form of short-term borrowing for dealers in government securities. In this case of a repo, a dealer sells government securities to investors, usually on an overnight basis, and then buys them back the following day at a slightly higher price. That small difference in price is the implicit overnight interest rate. Repos are typically used to raise short-term capital. That's the big thing. They just want to inject liquidity into the market. They are also a common tool of central bank open market operations. So if you're just looking at this in general, that's what repos are, right? It's just a way for the Fed to print money and pump up the market, and it's not going to work over time. Moving on, the Fed is set to increase the amount from 100 billion to 150 billion starting from the 9th to the 12th. Imagine that. More than the total, almost to the total entirety of the Bitcoin market cap. They're just going to print money. No big deal. It's also announced an increase in the 2-week term repos. This will move from at least 20 billion to at least 45 billion starting March 10th to the 12th. So yeah, a little more money to get printed. I'm sure that'll work out just fine. The Fed is attempting to stimulate the economy by printing more money. This, the crypto community is continuing to point out, is a fundamental flaw in the financial system, and off we go. Last sentence here, it says the same has been reiterated by Kim.com. If you guys know Kim.com, he had a great video. It was between him and Tone Vase and I forget the other guy. But they just sat down and they talked about Bitcoin. He pretty much lambasted him and said, look, he goes, I've built huge companies, tech companies. He did, it was a file sharing platform, one of the biggest in the world. And he said, people don't understand Bitcoin, they don't understand blockchain, but when the whole thing comes in, it's going to be mass adoption when people don't even realize what blockchain, or don't even realize that they're on top of blockchain. And they're going to look for the product that is faster and cheaper with less hassle. And right now you can't get that with Bitcoin. Transactions per second are super slow. there's fees that are rising up, and it's not as fast as it should be. I mean, that's the TPS argument. So yeah, that's what he told them, and they kind of looked like they got hit in the gut. Anyhow, Kim.com has warned that the current financial crash will be as bad as the Great Depression. He has advised investors to sell stocks and fiat currencies and buy Bitcoin and gold. So it really just comes down to this. My final thoughts are this. The Fed can continue to print money all day long, right? And pump up this false economy, but we're ready for a crash, a big crash. And I know people have talked about this in the past, but I mean, we just saw a taste of it yesterday. Just a taste. It was a huge drop off, right? I mean, everything went down. I mean, you can see everything from, like I said, the Dow, the S&P 500, gold took a dip, but it still raised up a little bit. I mean, oil went down, and that was one of the big things. But I mean, there's going to be a reckoning coming, I think, and it's just around the corner because you can't. We've had a booming economy in the U.S. I mean, globally, I think, for the most countries, for like 10 plus years. You cannot go up for 10 plus years and don't expect a major crash at some point. What goes up will inevitably come down, not to the floor, but at some point it has to get realistic, right? I mean, the bull run in 2017 only lasted for like 30 days, so I don't think this deck of cards is going to last too much longer. Anyhow, Bitcoin was created after the 2008 market bubble crisis, and that's, I think, what we need again. Look, after 2008, if you ever want to see a good movie, it's called The Big Short. And it talks about the whole history as far as, the housing market crisis, which led to the 2008 recession. And some might debate it was a depression or not, but it's kind of bad. If you were into real estate, you lost your shirt, your pants, your socks, everything. But after 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto wrote that famous white paper, which created Bitcoin, which puts this kind of trash out the window. And I think that's what we need again as a big reminder that, hey, we need this type of technology to come in. Anyhow, that's it for today's video. I want to say thanks for watching. Really appreciate you to stick with me through the rants. Now, if you got a couple minutes, I'm going to go over the scam of the day. So the scam of the day, if you're new to cryptocurrency, welcome. You picked a heck of a time to get in here. So congrats, you're on the dip. But the thing is with crypto is that everything's a scam, essentially. Everything you see, everything that's people are giving away free money or airdrops and trash like that, it's all scams. So what you need to do is if you ever think that, like, let's take Ripple. If you ever see a video and says, Ripple is giving away free XRP, stop before you give them anything. Go to the official Ripple website and just send them an email. It takes like 24 hours to get back. Hey, you guys giving away free XRP? No. If you think Binance is doing airdrops, contact Binance. Official website. Hey, you guys giving away free air? No. Hey, Ledger, are you guys giving away free nanos? No. Hey, is there some kind of like new type of system where I have to give you my private keys and you give me free Bitcoin? No. It's all scams. So if you ever are thinking to yourself that it's not a scam, just realize that you're not special. No one's giving you free money, and just contact the official website and it'll save you a lot of heartache and grief. Now, for those of you, well, people aren't listening, if they're not listening, but all the people that are coming in, and remember, these are people like who aren't as savvy as you. You're an early adopter, right? But people like, possibly your mom, your dad, your grandparents, they can get into this at some point when mass adoption comes and FOMO sets in, and they're going to get trashed like this. Well, before I move on, first of all, you can always find the scam of the day in the description of every one of my videos. Once you go in the description, there's going to be a link, and it's going to say scam of the day. You click on that, comes to this spreadsheet, and these are all the scams you already removed, so thank you so much. And these are the 4 or 5 that we got left over recently. So we're just going to click on this recent one here. It's going to take us to a video. We're going to take a look at this, and it looks like a nice video. It looks realistic. So why is this a scam? Well, first of all, everybody says it's a scam, but that's just a red flag. Maybe they're just a bunch of haters. We don't know. What we're looking for is an asymmetrical giveaway. What does that mean? That means like this. If you send us 1,000 XRP, we're going to airdrop you 10,000 back. If you send us 5,000 XRP, you're going to get 50,000 back. Now, most of you are laughing because you're like, who would fall for that? Guess what? It happens all the time. That's why there's so many scam videos out there. So what are we going to do? First, we're going to downvote it. Then we're going to click on these 3 dots. We're going to report. And we're going to say, this is a spam. This is spam or misleading. This is a scam or a fraud, and it applies to links in the description. 3 things to do. Last part right here, this is a scam, exclamation point, and report, and you're done. So you can use whatever language you want. That's what I do. And that's all we can do right now. So apparently YouTube can't police their own community, so we'll do it for them. Anyhow, that is it for today's video. Thanks for sticking with me to the very last parts. If you like these types, there's going to be 2 that are going to pop up on the left and right. Don't know what they are. They are curated for you. And that is it. So thanks for watching to the very end, and I will see you on the next one.